Guys, so for today's video I'm going to be ranking all of the tales from the live action mermaid movies that I have on DVD. I like to collect DVDs because I was raised in the early 2000s where, before Netflix was like an online streaming service, and it would just send you a DVD in the mail, and then you would watch the movie and then send it back. So, at the bottom of the list, we have Scales, Mermaids Are Real. Now, this movie, in theory, was a good movie, but upon watching it, it was really not. The acting was terrible, really unconvincing. And these two chicks aren't even in the movie. So it doesn't make any sense. And since they had Hannah Fraser, a professional mermaid, in the movie, that's her right there, I would assume that, it would be more authentic, but it really was not. Like, the tails looked good. They were silicone tails, but the swimming in them, not at all. There was so much knee bending, and it's like this chick was trying to bicycle kick with a tail on. And it was just not there. And like, the tail was not fitted right. So, yeah, the tail looked good, but the other aspects made it not so much. Now, the next one is A Mermaid's Tale. It's a less popular movie, but the tails did look good, but, they didn't quite look as authentic as I would have wanted them to be, and at least the swimming was better. Yeah, if you haven't seen this one, and haven't heard of it, it's about a girl named Ryan who moves to the seaside town where her dad grew up to look after her grandfather, who is stubborn and refuses to admit that he's got health problems because he's getting old. Where she ends up meeting a mermaid. And they become best friends, among other things. So, if you want to check this movie out, I'm sure you can find it somewhere to stream it. Then we have, I don't actually have the DVD case anymore, but we have The 13th Year, which is a movie that Disney came out with about a boy. His name's Cody, and he starts turning into a merman when he turns 13. Now, the tale is really good. It has, there's different versions of the tale. There's where it's just his feet that have fully transformed into the tail and his legs are still separate. And the tail looks really good. Some of the editing in the movie, not so much. You can, there's this one part at the very end of the movie where he jumps out of the water, and if it had been edited right, well, or edited a little better, it would have looked really epic. But instead we got an obvious green screen and it was a bit underwhelming, like given what we're used to in the special effects departments of movies today, but it's still a very good movie. I find it kind of funny. Then next on today's list is Fishtails. You might recognize, if you look up pictures from the movie, you might recognize the tail and think, that looks really familiar. And it's because the same artist that made this tail made the tails for H2O. And you know how much I love that show. Yeah, so same tails, just different color. And they added some, and the reason this isn't at the top of the list is because they added some really fake looking gems to the tail. And first of all, that does not appear like in nature. So the gems they would have been good if someone had spent a little more time making them look realistic gems and not like plastic gems that you get out of like one of those gumball machines. Where you put the coin in and a little pod comes out with a little cheap necklace for kids is inside or something like that. Or like any rhinestones you get at a craft store that are really cheap. Yeah, just those kind of things. Yeah, so this tail was green and purple. And the top did still have elements of the whole H2O, but it was just patches of scales covering her chest. There was no like back part, no halter part like on the H2O tails. And not like in this image here where the scales go all the way up. You can look up this movie. It's fairly popular. And you can see in this picture here, it looks a lot like the H2O tail. And so that's why it was the same artist. Now, I know I have this DVD for Splash somewhere, but I can't find it. So I'm just gonna tell you, I'm sure that everyone watching this video has at least heard of Splash. That tail is like really good. And Daryl Hannah was clearly trained well to swim in it. And the only reason I'm ranking it above the fishtail's tail is because of those gems that looked really cheap on the fishtail's tail. Now, for the top of the list, we have aquamarine. Now, aquamarine's tail was blue, and it's made the same with the same methods that the H2O tails and the fishtail's tail is made. It's a mold. A plaster cast was made of Sarah Paxton's legs, and then they used those casts to make a mold for a layer of neoprene sock, and then layer upon layer of plastic scales, like multiple layers to make sure that nothing shines through. And the tail was really heavy and really detailed. Like, even with the camera quality and the editing job that they were capable of back then when this movie came out, is still really good, and you can still tell just how detailed this tail is and how realistic. Now, the difference between the best tail on this list and the worst tail on this list is the method is, well, there's the methods in which they were made and the person that was swimming in it. Sarah Paxton had been trained to swim in this heavy mermaid tail, and it had been made specifically to her body, not her measurements, but her actual body. It was made to fit her perfectly. Whereas, and this movie had a much higher budget than this one. And so this one was a silicone tail with just a layer of neoprene with some silicone on top. And it was a mold, a scale mold. They made a sheet of silicone. They put it on the neoprene that was made to the actress's exact measurements, and then painted with some thinned down silicone with color on it. And it's the same way that my tail was made. I emailed Eric my measurements, and I filled it out on his website, and he made the tail to my measurements, but he didn't actually have me in the studio with him while he was making the tail. So there's still probability for it being not as exact as if it were a higher budget movie like Aquamarine with lots of money for materials at their disposal. Whereas this one probably just ordered it from an online store, and then they made it and then sent it to them without even knowing that they were making a tail for a movie. Because you can get this exact tail from somewhere. Like, you can get the exact fluke shape and tail shape, as well as the exact paint job if you want. You just need to find where they purchased their tail from. And it's probably the same place that Hannah Fraser gets her tails from, seeing as she was in the movie. Like, I have so many problems with this movie. I could do an entire other video on that. In fact, I think I might record more than one video before washing off this makeup look. So, if you know of any other mermaid movies that are live action that you think that I would like, and if there's a mermaid in it, of course I'll like it, you know, or at least I'll watch it. Let me know the title of the movie and the year it was made. That way I can make sure to find the right movie. And if I can find it on DVD, I will definitely add it to my collection. See you guys in the next video.